Have you ever wondered what it really takes to get from a fruit pod growing on a tree to the chocolate bar in your hand? Well, you might be surprised to learn it's this incredibly precise 14-day journey. So let's follow a cocoa bean from the very beginning to the delicious end.
I mean, really think about it. How does this become this? It's an amazing story of pressure, patience, and some pretty incredible natural chemistry.
Okay, so this is our roadmap for the next 2 weeks. Think of it as our journey map. It breaks down the entire process day by day, and we're going to follow every single step, from the moment the pod is picked on day 1 all the way to that final product on day 14.
All right, let's dive in. Our journey kicks off in the field, and day 1 is all about moving fast. The first 2 critical steps, getting the pods off the tree and splitting them open, they have to happen on the very same day.
It all starts with a really selective harvest. Farmers are looking for only the perfectly ripe pods. You can tell by their bright yellow or orange color. They're carefully snipped from the tree to avoid any damage and then gathered up in a nice, shady spot.
But why are they so picky about the color? Well, it's not about looks, that's for sure. That vibrant color is a signal that the white pulp surrounding the beans inside is packed with sugar. And that sugar, it's the rocket fuel for the single most important stage of the entire process, which is just around the corner. We're still on day 1, remember, the clock is ticking. Those harvested pods are split open, and workers scoop out the beans, which are all coated in that sweet, sticky white pulp. The empty husks get tossed, and now this raw material is ready for its first major transformation.
And that brings us to the next phase, a really big one. It lasts from the end of day 1 all the way through day 6. We're talking about fermentation. This, right here, is where the magic of chocolate truly begins. It is the absolute make-or-break moment where fantastic flavor is born or lost forever.
So what is fermentation exactly? You can almost think of it as a kind of controlled rot. It's a totally natural process where tiny microorganisms start feasting on all that sugar in the pulp, breaking it down. This process does 2 incredible things. It creates the foundational chocolate flavor we all know and love, and it kills the bean's embryo so it can't start sprouting.
Now, the method itself sounds simple, but every detail is vital. The beans are packed into wooden boxes or big jute sacks and just covered, left to ferment naturally. But you can't just walk away. Turning them every couple of days is absolutely crucial to make sure every single bean gets fermented evenly.
I mean, this step is a total game changer. It transforms the beans from something intensely bitter and raw into something that starts to have that rich, complex cocoa aroma and taste. Let me put it this way. Without fermentation, there is no chocolate, period. Okay, so we've created all this amazing flavor potential. What's next? Well, now the job is to preserve it, and then to enhance it. This brings us to day 7, and the start of the drying and roasting phase, which is going to take us almost another full week.
First up is drying, and this is where patience is key. It's a long, slow process. For about 5 to 7 days, the fermented beans are spread out in a really thin layer, either right under the sun or in a big mechanical dryer. And just like with fermentation, they have to be turned constantly so they all dry out perfectly evenly.
And the whole goal of this long, slow drying game is to hit a very specific target. They need to get the moisture content down to just 6 or 7%. That is the absolute sweet spot that stops any mold from growing and perfectly locks in all that amazing flavor we just developed.
Now you might be thinking, drying, roasting, aren't they kind of the same thing? Well, not at all. They have totally different jobs. Drying, which takes up almost the whole week, is low and slow, and its purpose is to preserve. Roasting, which happens on day 13, is hot and fast, and it's all about enhancing the flavor.
And when we say hot and fast, we really mean it. The beans get roasted for just 20 to 40 minutes at a super high temperature, somewhere between 120 and 150 degrees Celsius. It's this final blast of intense heat that really unlocks those deep, rich, chocolatey notes.
So this quick roast gives you a great 2-for-1 deal. First, it's that final critical step for developing that signature chocolate aroma. And second, that intense heat makes the outer shell of the bean super brittle, which is going to be essential for the very next step. We're still on day 13, but now the whole process shifts gears. After that perfect roast, the bean is finally ready to be transformed from a solid seed into the liquid foundation for all things chocolate.
First, in a cool process called winnowing, those brittle shells are cracked and literally blown away.
And what's left behind is the pure heart of the bean, the cocoa nibs. These nibs are then ground and ground and ground, and the friction from the milling actually turns them into a thick, rich liquid paste.
This paste is called cocoa liquor. Now, I know what you're thinking when you hear that name, but rest assured, it contains absolutely zero alcohol. It's simply the pure, unadulterated essence of the cocoa bean, and it is the foundational ingredient for every single chocolate product you can possibly imagine.
And that brings us to the finish line. Day 14, the grand finale of our 2-week journey. The cocoa liquor is finally ready, and from this one amazing ingredient, a whole world of delicious products is about to be born.
From here, the possibilities just explode. That cocoa liquor can be pressed to separate it into cocoa powder and cocoa butter. It can be used as is for really intense baking, or it can be mixed with other things like sugar and milk to become drinking chocolate or, of course, the classic chocolate bar. It's just an incredibly versatile end product.
So if you remember just one thing from this whole journey, let it be this. This chart shows us where the final quality of the chocolate really comes from. Fermentation is by far the most important step, making up 40% of the final result. Then you've got drying and roasting, both absolutely critical as well. These 3 steps, that's where the real craft is.
And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. Great chocolate is never an accident. It is the direct result of precision and control. It all comes down to getting the time, the temperature, and the technique just right during those 3 key stages. Every little detail matters.
So there you have it. From a simple fruit hanging on a tree through 14 days of intense pressure and patience, through fermentation, drying, and roasting, all the way to the very foundation of chocolate. It's a pretty remarkable process. Kind of makes you appreciate that next bite just a little bit more, doesn't it?